Konnichiwa, power players. Welcome to the T-shirt transfer paper power half hour, brought to you by the fine folks here at Conde Systems Incorporated. My name's Doug DeWitt, product manager here at Kandy. Welcome to the show. Hope you're going to enjoy today's episode. We are going to delve into the Digital Factory 10 RIP provided by CAD-Link, which is now included with all the new Crio white toner systems. And we're going to analyze a particular function in there that we call the supersize image. And we think you're really going to enjoy this episode because it's going to show you one of the ways that you can manipulate this RIP, get better graphics, make more money. Okay, so make sure to stay aboard the whole length of the show as we get going. With me today, directing as usual, my sidekick, Rodeo Bo. And of course, before we can get started with today's episode, what do we have to do, Rodeo Bo?
Pay the power bill.
We got to pay the power bill. Okay, so first up on the power bill, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been shopping around for the hottest sublimation gift item out there, which is the Epson F570 wide format printer, well, you are in luck because we have them available here at Conde Systems. Yep, we've got them ready. We've got them boxed up. We've got them ready to ship. And we're giving them to you at the incredibly low price of $2,195 with free shipping. Is that right, Rodeo Bo, or is that a typo? Rodeo Bo's shaking his head, so it must be right. But anyway, we do have them. So if you're in the market for the Epson F570, make sure you give us a call at Conde Systems. Another thing I wanted to mention, on our website, dietrans.com, we are running our quarterly gallery contest. I have to say that slow because it tongue-ties me. But this quarter, the topic is sublimation for sports. So if you've got something that you have crafted with sublimation printing that you think is a winner, make sure to submit it to our quarterly gallery contest, because you could win as much as $50 in Kandy credit, all the way up to $400 in Kandy credit for the grand prize winner. It's pretty cool. Definitely get you a pack of low temp 11x17 with $400 credit. So make sure you enter. Go to dietrans.com, click on the banner for more information. Also wanted to remind people, it's the holiday season, which means you need to go ahead and get your orders in to make sure you cover that holiday rush. If you order over $200, we offer free delivery. Some restrictions apply. Check out our website for more information. And of course, you can't pay the power bill without mentioning The Road to Sublimation Success, co-authored by our very own David Gross. But if you did not know this, there is a new supplement that is available, The Road to Sublimation Success, cashing in on the Chromolux revolution. Now, why did David pen this one? Because, according to him, nothing brings out the beauty of sublimation printing quite like Chromolux panels. Now, if you're familiar with them, you know that they are high quality. The coating on them is absolutely superb, fantastic photo reproduction. What you may not know is that there are people out there putting their artwork on Chromolux and getting as much as tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you're like, hey, Doug, I want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, then maybe you should purchase the supplement, The Road to Sublimation Success, cashing in on the Chromolux revolution. It's available through Amazon. It's available at Conde Systems, and you can download from Kindle. Okay, Bo, I think the power bill's been paid. Let's jump into today's topic, which is working in the Digital Factory 10 RIP program. Now, this is the RIP program that is being packaged with all the new Crio white digital transfer systems, the 9541 WDT and the 8432 WDT. So it was written by CAD-Link. I think it's an excellent program, and it is very feature rich, so to speak. So what we're going to do is kind of take these features one at a time and dive in, so to speak, explaining the process. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about a unique feature to this RIP that is called supersize image, which essentially acts as what we call a fractal program. In other words, adding resolution to a graphic so that when you blow up that graphic, you get a clean looking image instead of a dittered, pixelated design. Now, this is going to apply to most of your bitmap style file formats, your JPEGs, your TIFFs, your PNGs, okay? So basically, you're working with something that has a set resolution. Now, Anybody out there who is in the digital decoration industry, you've probably run across this scenario before where somebody gives you a 2" by 3" at 72 DPI graphic that they pulled off their own website or they grabbed off of Google Images, and they want you to blow that up into a full bleed shirt. Okay, what we got to remember with bitmaps and fixed pixels is that if we double the size of our bitmap, if we physically blow up that image to twice its size, we're going to cut the resolution in half. And once you get below a certain resolution, usually 72 DPI, you start getting that pixelated, washed out effect. So in other words, you got to have a quality image in order to blow it up sufficiently where you have enough resolution, so to speak, that you can work with the file. Now, for t-shirt or fabric purposes, I usually recommend that your final image resolution should be somewhere between 150 to 300 DPI. We usually don't have to go over 300 DPI because we're not going onto a flat reflective surface like Chromolux metal. We're going onto a pitted woven fabric that can only hold so much resolution anyway. So 150 to 300 DPI is what we want to target with our final design. Now, if we're going on to a hard substrate, my advice is you want to work with a minimum of 240 DPI. Now, 300 is sufficient too. But by the same token, you don't want to go overboard on the DPI because if you do, what you end up doing is creating a monster-sized graphic file. So if you think that more DPI gives you a better graphic and you bump it up to, let's say, like 1080 DPI, and then you wonder, why is it taking my printer 20 minutes to print this design? That's why. You've got so much information going to your printer, you're basically choking the output, so to speak. So what we want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we want to find that happy medium where once we reach our final physical size, that the image resolution is somewhere between 150 to 300 DPI. Now, there are ways that we can do that in graphic software programs. For instance, if you happen to have Corel Draw, you can open up what is called Photo Paint. And when you take a bitmap design and you open it up in Photo Paint, you have the ability to resample the image size. Now, president of our company, David Gross, believes that the Corel Draw algorithm is very good and does an excellent job at filling in resolution, but we're going to put that to the test against the ability of the Digital Factory 10 RIP with the supersize image. Pardon me. Another thing you can do is you could work in Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Photoshop Elements where you resize the graphic. In other words, you can reset the physical size and reset the image resolution. But again, the more you do that, the bigger file that it creates. Now, the issue that I have with doing it in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements is it has a tendency to add like-minded pixels, but it has a difficult time coming up with a natural blend, especially if we're trying to do a photographic reproduction. But again, we're going to test an example done in Corel and done in Adobe Photoshop Elements, and we're going to compare it to the output that we get with the supersize image function in the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Now, another thing is we could work with a paid, what's called fractal program. Now, a fractal program is going to be better than going into graphic software and just enhancing resolution because a fractal program is going to analyze the entire graphic and it knows to make certain color shifts when adding dots to the overall DPI of the graphic. So there are programs like Genuine Fractals provided by On1 Software. There's also Gigapixel, which is provided by Topaz. Now those are paid programs. Those you could be spending upwards to $200, $300 to be able to do this fractal process, so to speak, to enhance your image resolution so you can blow up your design and get a good looking design. Now, if we can accomplish the same thing using a function that's already provided within the Digital Factory 10 RIP, even better. So basically, what I like about the process in the Digital Factory 10 RIP is we really don't have to be an expert in graphic software. If you're like me and you're a graphic software novice, all you want to do is make 1 or 2 adjustments, file, print, and go because your time is money. So let's go ahead and compare the process, so to speak. Bo, I hope you've been drinking your pumpkin spice latte so that you can fold space and put us inside of my computer and take a look at the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Thank you, Bo. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we are inside the Digital Factory 10 RIP provided by CAD-Link. You notice I have two queues. I've got a queue for graphics and a queue for photo. Now, talking to Mr. Charles Hill, who heads up tech support at Crio, he was saying that the supersize image function works better with line art and clip art designs than it does with photographic output. But we're going to put both to the test here. But let's give you a quick rundown on how this is going to work. First thing I'm going to do is select my graphics profile, because we'll basically work with a graphic to begin with. I'm going to go ahead and set my paper as Forever Dark, and I'm going to set my size to tabloid, 11 by 17. Let's go ahead and bring in a file, and let's start with our Conde Pac-Man logo. Now, this particular logo here is a 1" by 1" at 72 DPI graphic. Now, the tricky part is, what if you want to blow this up? Let's say maybe increase it to 5 inches by 5 inches. Well, of course, here in the RIP, I can go ahead and change that size to 5. And let me go ahead and place it on my sheet. There we go. I'm going to make a copy of this. Give myself 1" margin there. And let's drag this down to add more copies. I'm going to give myself a 1/2 inch margin here. And let me go ahead and fill the entire sheet with a 5" by 5" logo. So basically, I've got 6 logos on this page at about 5 inches by 5 inches. But remember, my original resolution was only 72 DPI. So if I increase this 5 times its size, I've cut that 72 DPI by 5. Okay, so this is probably going to be real low res. But just to kind of show you here, let me go ahead and rip this file. And now that I have it ripped, let me go ahead and send this to the printer. Now, let's take that same Conde Pac-Man logo, bring it into the RIP, but what I'm going to do here is highlight, right-click, and move down my menu to find Supersize Image. And as you can see here, it gives us the ability to increase the resolution. So, let's say I want to keep the 72 DPI image resolution, but I want to make the graphic 5 times its size. Well, let me get out my calculator. 72 times 5. Well, that's 360, Rodeo Bo. So let's go ahead and just simply make our new resolution 360 DPI. We'll click on OK, and as you can see, it gives us a preview of that graphic. And if we go with the default settings on it, now with basically one click, instead of a 1" by 1" at 72, I've got a 1" by 1" at 360 DPI. So now I can go ahead and increase that graphic 5 times its size. Go ahead and place it where I want it on the sheet. Click on my copies function. Give myself some space in between those copies. Drag it down. Give myself some space between there. Drag it down again. I'll go ahead and center. So now I've got 6 designs, but instead of at a 72 DPI divided by 5, it's a true 72 DPI. We'll go ahead and send this one to the printer, and later on in the show, we'll compare the output from the two. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the photo queue of the Digital Factory 10 RIP. And now what we're going to do is work with a couple of low resolution photographs to see if we can enhance them, so to speak. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a photo. Let's bring in Miss Betty Davis here. Now originally this design was a 3" by 4" at 72 DPI. But what I did was I took this particular design and brought it into Corel Draw first. Used the edit bitmap to launch Photo Paint, and through resampling, I resampled this to 10" by 14" at 288 DPI. Okay, so basically, pardon me, using Corel Draw Photoshop to enhance the design. So again, let me go ahead, rip this. And once that job is ripped, I can go ahead and send to the printer. But instead of going into another program to manipulate, we can just manipulate right here at the rip. Let's take the original design, so to speak. Remember, this is 3" by 4" at 72 DPI. So what I want to do, as I was saying, ultimately we want the resolution, once we size it out, to be somewhere between 150 and 300 DPI. So if it's at 72 DPI right now, and I increase that resolution 4 times, that's going to bump the resolution up to 288 DPI. But then I also need to physically increase it 3 times its original size. So let's take that number and multiply by 3, and I'm getting a resolution of about 864 DPI. So let's go into our supersized image. Now you can see at 72 DPI, our file size is about 237 kilobytes. Once I bump this up to 864, now I get a file size that's 33.4 megabytes. So a significant increase to the file size, which is why I'm saying we don't want to go overboard with this program. We want enough target resolution to give us a decent looking, but too much is going to be overkill. But let's go ahead and save that. Now, while I'm here, let me kind of go over some of these functions that you see here on the side. First off, I'm going to take my cursor and let's focus on Betty Davis's eye. Okay, you'll notice here under the scaling part of the feature, we've got something called edge sharpening. Now, edge sharpening, in my opinion, it kind of acts like a focus. You reduce the edge sharpening, you get a blurred effect. Go all the way on the edge sharpening, and sometimes you get this kind of hard detail. So like I said, basically what we want to do is kind of find a balance between. Here we go. Now another thing we have, surface smoothness. Now this is basically a tool that's going to blend in pixels. In other words, we might have a bunch of splotchiness around here where we've got varying colors of basically the same color family. If we go ahead and soften that up, you see we get a nice color transition without that pixelization here. Nice feature. Now, under denoising, which is basically taken out the crud, so to speak, you'll notice that we have what is called clean, which in my opinion kind of equates to an airbrush effect. If we go higher, you'll notice we get a lot more image smoothing as we go up in the clean feature. But then again, we don't want to take out so much where it looks more cartoonish than it does an actual photograph. And remember, we can always hit the reset button to go back to the original design. Now, as far as the chroma is concerned, basically the chroma is kind of like controlling the saturation. We go low on chroma, we get less saturation, we bump up the chroma, more saturation. Again, we can always reset to get back to our original settings. But once we've manipulated the image to the point where we like it, we just go ahead and click OK. Now at this point, the RIP will start processing this file and essentially running a fractal program. Now this may take a few seconds, it may take a couple of minutes, depending on the strength of your computer, which is why when it comes to powering this program, we recommend going with a PC that has a minimum of i5 processor and 2.8 gigahertz speed. Okay, but now that we've got it, edited, and we use the supersize function, now what I can do is go ahead and increase that design 3 times its original size. I can go ahead, center that. Let's right click and rip it. And then once it's ripped, we can highlight and send to the printer. All right, now let's kind of go over these steps one more time here. I'm going to open my second graphic. What do you know? Another Betty Davis. This one was manipulated in Adobe Photoshop Elements. The original design was a 4-inch by 4-inch at 80 dpi. I used Adobe Photoshop Elements to increase the resolution to a 10-inch by 10-inch graphic, and I believe this one we're going at 240 dpi. Like I said, somewhere between 150 to 300 dpi for a fabric. Now, you notice that I've got it set for black t-shirts, which is why it's knocking out the black and showing us this black background here. So, let me go ahead, rip this file. We would send this file highlighted to the printer, but again, you know, instead of doing this in another program, we could just simply take the original, bring it into Digital Factory 10. Once it's in there, highlight, right click, select supersize image. Now this one, ultimately, I'm going to have to increase the size by 2.5 times. I'm going to increase the resolution 3 times. So 80 times 3, 240. Let's take that 240, let's multiply that by 2.5, what we're physically going to blow it up. And ultimately, I want 600 dpi resolution to pull that off. So go ahead and click it. And again, we can play with all these functions. Now you notice when I mess with the surface smoothness, it gets rid of a lot of that dithering that was here around the eye. As far as that edge sharpening, I can lower that a little. See, it kind of takes it out of focus, so to speak. I think that looks good, Rodeo Bow. I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. And again, we just have to give the RIP a few seconds to a few minutes to basically crunch this file, going from a couple of 100 kilobytes upwards to about 16 megabytes, I believe, on this design. But now that it's ready, I can go ahead and physically increase that size to a 10-inch by 10-inch. As you can see, we increased the overall size 250%. Let's go ahead and get that centered on our worksheet, Rodeo Bow. Let's give that a RIP. Highlight it, go ahead and send that on to the printer. So, Rodeo Bow, come back to me. Hi everybody. We went ahead and magically printed out all those designs. And what I did was put them against some backdrop here so that we can kind of see the result. Let me get this situated, and if you can give me the overhead, Rodeo. There we go. I hope everybody can see that. So what we have are our 2 designs. In other words, this, where we had a 1-inch by 1-inch design at 72 dpi, where we just decided to stretch it out without any image manipulation. Here, where we basically took the design, ran it through the supersize image, and made it 360 dpi, so when we blew it up, we're back to our original 72. Now, it may be tough for the camera to pick up, but along this edge here, we've got a tremendous amount of pixelation. Because remember, we are no longer at 72 dpi. What we are really at, let's calculate it out. This is more like 14 dots per inch here, whereas this is 72 dots per inch. And where you really notice it is along the edging. So, if you could see close up like I can here, this print would be absolutely junk. There's no way you could put this on a shirt. This one is going to work absolutely fine. And all it took was one simple click. All right, Rodeo, give me just a second here. You might as well leave it there. Let's take a look at some other examples. Now this, right here, this is the first Betty Page graphic that we did. Now this one, remember, it was originally a 3" by 4" at 72 dpi that we increased 3 times its size. So what we did was we took that 72 dpi, we divided by 3. So this graphic is really at about 24 dpi at this size. And while it might be tough to tell from this camera angle here, if we looked at the eyes, I can see all kinds of pixelation within the eyes. Now, let me get this one next to it, Rodeo. This is the graphic. Here we go. Hope everyone can see that. Bo keeps moving the camera angle, so I keep moving the sheets. Okay. This one here, manipulated in Corel Draw to 288 dpi. This one, the 72 dpi that we shrunk down to 24 dpi. Now, basically, if you look at the blotching here and here, it's much less profound here at the 288 dpi than it is at the 72. But let me take this one away. So now here we have the graphic done in Digital Factory 10 and the one that we did in Corel. Both of these graphics should be at a 288 finished DPI image resolution. Now, while it might be difficult for the camera to pick up, the one thing you definitely notice is the smoother transition of the flesh tone colors here and here coming out of the Digital Factory 10 than coming out of Corel. Another place you might notice it is here in the hair. Okay, but I would say that done with Digital Factory 10, I think both of them are a good looking graphic. But like I said, I think the flesh tone transitions are just much better coming out of the Digital Factory 10 than if we did it from Corel. Just my opinion, but then again, I'm standing right over it. Might be difficult for our camera to pick up. But we're going to go ahead and give one more try, Bo. Here's the second set of Betty Davises that I did. Now, I am using some black construction paper to kind of give an idea of how these would work, so to speak, on a black garment, as opposed to actually putting them on a black garment. Now, can you tell which one was done in Adobe Photoshop Elements and which one was done through the Digital Factory 10 RIP? Well, this design right here, there's the Photoshop design. Now, again, it might be difficult for the camera to pick up, but I'm still getting some pixelization here around this shaded area of Betty's face. Here, by using the smoothing feature within the supersize, much better color transition, okay? And personally, I think you can definitely tell the difference in the eyes. So like I said, what I love about the supersize function is it's a function that just about anybody can use. As long as you can calculate what you want your final image resolution to be, then it's just as simple as plugging in a number and going. Like I said, you can play with all the effects there in the Digital Factory 10 supersize function, and if you get lost, you can always click the reset button and go back to normal defaults. And I'm telling you, under normal default settings, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a good looking graphic. So, like I said, you basically have a built-in fractal program called Supersize Image within the CAD-Link Digital Factory 10 RIP, which I think is just as good of a job as some of these couple of $100 fractal software programs that were designed for doing work like this. And me personally, I think it does a little better job than CorelDRAW or Adobe Photoshop. But you need to be the judge of that, so to speak. So if you're interested in playing around with this, remember, you can go to CAD-Link's website and you can get a 15-day free trial of the Digital Factory 10 RIP so that you can experiment on your own time. So again, what do I love about it? If you're like me and you're a novice graphic artist, so to speak, it's very easy to use. And personally, I think a tremendous time saver as opposed to going through another software program, okay? So we're getting better results, we're saving time, which means we're making more money. That's just how it works. So hope you enjoyed this tour of the supersize image function. If you have any questions regarding the steps that we have gone over, don't forget to type out and hit up our inbox. That is TTPPHH@Kandy.com. We do check the inbox and we do answer those questions. Also, if you want to post your question to the comment section in Facebook or YouTube, we'll get to your answers there. Hopefully we got good ones for you. Also, if you wouldn't mind, remember to like and share this video to members of your community that you consider friends so that we can drive up viewership and hopefully get more clicks, whatever that means. They just say get more clicks. So remember to tune in to our next episode, episode 28 of the T-Shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour. It will be on Tuesday, November 23rd at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, not Central Daylight Time, because daylight savings time is over, and I really don't know what time it is, Rodeo Bo. I mean, Rodeo Bo's shrugging his shoulders. He can't read a watch either. But anyway, we will probably be available that time, and I think you're going to want to tune in because we are going to have an absolute extravaganza on that episode. I can't give away the secret, but there will be special guests, and there will be fun. There might even be pyrotechnics because Bo loves pyrotechnics. So remember to tune in to the next episode of the T-Shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour. Thank you for watching this episode. Until then, I'm Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Conde Systems. Our time is up, but we thank you for yours.